All right, good morning, everyone. It's Monday, February 28th, and this is Planning, Housing, Economic Development Committee. We are taking up today several items related to housing and the capital budget, starting with the proposed budget for the Housing Opportunities Commission. And we're excited to welcome our colleagues from HOC, as well as, of course, DHCA and many others. So Linda McMillan has prepared a packet, and she'll take us into it and introduce everyone, and then we'll get going. And Councilmember Jwando is on by without the camera on, and Councilmember Friedson is here. All right.
Good morning. I'm here with Naeem Mia, who's joining me now on housing issues.
That's right. Thank you. Hello, Naeem. Thank you.
And help to prepare the packet. You do have before you the executive's recommended CIP budget items for the Housing Opportunities Commission and the Department of Housing and Community Affairs. We will work on the Housing Opportunities Commission first, and you do have a packet in front of you. It does list the projects that are in the CIP. Many of them actually are familiar to you. The Demolition Fund, the existing revolving funds, which are a guaranteed bond project, property acquisition, the Opportunity Housing Development Fund, as well as the ongoing project for supplemental funds for deeply subsidized HOC-owned units. And we have a new project related to WSSC sewer and stormline improvements at Elizabeth Square. And before we get into the specific projects, I did want to mention that last week HOC did share with council staff and OMB staff some narrative that they have been putting together regarding their efforts for racial equity, racial and ethnic disparities, as well as how their projects address climate change. We're going to take a little bit of time to work with HOC to review the specific narrative, which is why it's not in front of you today, and then have some suggestions about where the council might wish to include this in the approved capital improvements program document. So we will definitely get back to you on that, but I think it's important to understand, that HOC is being very intentional in looking at these issues as they develop their program. And I wanted to see if Kayreen Brown, the acting executive director, wanted to provide you with some comments on that.
Sure. Thank you, Linda, and good morning, council members and county staff. Thank you for the opportunity to address you and to especially address race, equity, and social justice and climate impact for HOC CIP projects. I think that just as a part of our general practice at HOC, whether we are thinking about it or not, we are impacting racial equity across the county by virtue of the folks that we're serving. And our mission is to get people housed, keep people housed, and to help them reach their fullest potential. And because we're reaching deeply into the lowest of the low of the income strata and the poorest of the poor, we are, even if we're not thinking about it, serving and trying to level the playing field for the poorest of the poor in the county. But in fact, we are thinking about it. We are constantly finding ways to balance in our mixed income developments, to balance those who have more against those who have less, so that in all of our mixed income developments, which is what we do normally, routinely, we are finding ways to ensure that our market rate renters pay a little bit more so that we're able to offer lower income tenants the same opportunities in areas of opportunity, near job centers, near better schools, near transportation, so that those who make less have the same access as those who have more. And the county CIP projects, or deeply subsidized projects, help us in preserving the housing that we have in those ideal locations. They help us to renovate older developments that serve folks that make far less than the area median income, and also help us to renovate those units to tighten building envelopes to replace older appliances to so that they're more energy efficient, and our residents are not paying too much in terms of utility costs and are able to redirect their incomes elsewhere to serve their families. Our revolving funds allow us to strategically identify developments where we are able to preserve them and plan for redevelopment, or to preserve them while we're working through longer-term financing plans for opportunities where we're able to use the county's low cost of funds or no cost of funds in the case of the revolving funds, and prepare for longer-term financings. The county GO bond project, it's especially lucrative in that we're able to strategically use that resource to plan for long-term financing where other financing vehicles are not available to us. And for the Demolition Fund, that is in particularly has been helpful to HOC. It is so because we were able to demolish the Ambassador apartments in Wheaton and prepare it for redevelopment. Once that site is redeveloped, HOC will deliver to the marketplace. We were estimating currently about 900 units for families. And that is a very important point because prior to that, the Ambassador apartment had 162 single room occupancy units. We are going to replace that with family units, and at least 30% of those units will be affordable to folks below 60% of the area median income. This gives access to families to transportation in an urban location in Wheaton, where they'll have access to amenities, jobs, transportation, and make them, giving them access and making them able to, to have their families live in an area where they're not crammed into a single room, which was the case we found, as we were digging into planning for that project. For Emery Grove, which is the second demolition project, we're now able to contribute that site to the Heritage Emery Grove redevelopment. That is a pretty significant project that's going to be coming to the county. We've spoken to you all about that development, and we're pretty excited about it. So, so the county continues to support HOC, and we continue to, we hope, deliver good outcomes for the county that speaks to race, equity, and social justice. And by locating our projects in lucrative, ideal areas of the county near transportation, we're impacting the environment. We're also, as we're planning our projects, we're also trying to ensure that we're applying techniques, investigating ways of ensuring that we're not solely reliant on fossil fuels for fuel, for operating our buildings, that we're looking to alternate ways that will impact the environment in a positive way. And so through the use of your funds, we'll continue to do that. And that is our commitment. That will be our commitment into the future. And so again, we appreciate your efforts and your continued support for HOC, because without the county at our backs, challenging us, pushing us, supporting us, we would not be able to do many of the things that we're doing. For the Elizabeth House project, that is especially important because without the county's help in funding the sewer line and the temporary water line for the Purple Line, we will not be able to obtain the certificate of occupancy. Why is that important? We have residents in the old Elizabeth House who are waiting for that building to be delivered in the summer so that they can move into this new building. Those are folks of very low income. And what we've done there, we've applied a technique called income averaging, ensuring that there are folks at 30% of the area median income, 40% of the area median income, all the way up to 80, that will be able to reside at Elizabeth House. And of course, we will be delivering the county's recreational and aquatic facility. So overall, strong support by the county, and we expect that we'll continue to collaborate and work in support of the county's initiatives and develop those of our own and strengthen overall the county's push for expanding and preserving affordable housing. So again, thank you on behalf of HOC and the staff that are here with us today.
Great. Thank you for that presentation. There's so much going on and got such a remarkable team. Really am just continue to be so impressed by HOC's incredible operations and your delivery on affordable housing, your creativity and your leadership. And you're a terrific partner to the county government. And you certainly take some heat, you know, at times in certain projects that you're doing. Everybody finds a reason to complain about, you know, a new development that's going in, and you know, often that shows up as a tax on you in Annapolis and legislation that tries to, you know, restrict your abilities or put undue burdens on your operations. And, you know I've been trying to stand up for you over these past number of years and make sure that our elected officials and our community recognizes that, you know, if the county government can't fight for our public housing authority, you know, we don't really deserve our jobs. Like, this is what we're here to do. We're here to deliver deeply affordable housing for our most vulnerable communities. And you're a critical partner for us in doing that. And, you know, I am often distressed by the politics of building housing. And unfortunately, sometimes that applies for HOC projects as well. You get too much pushback, but you're doing great stuff. And, you know, we'll get into the Opportunity Fund, the Housing Production Fund, you know, probably at a different session in more significant detail. But you know, a lot of important resources here for you to take advantage of. And I'm really excited about Emery Grove. I think that's going to be a terrific project as well. And you know, thank you for all of that. So back to you, Linda. Where do we? You know, I guess we'll just proceed into the packet.
Right. And I wanted to say, in addition to Ms. Brown, Zachary Marks, Tim Getzinger, Terry Fowler, Tomi Adebo, and Hyunsik Choi are here from HOC to respond to questions, and Mary Beck and Anita Iridi are here from the Office of Management and Budget if there are questions for them. And I did want to say, before we get into the revolving funds that are in the CIP, which are all very long-standing funds, but you do need to review them each time we go through the CIP. The HOC Housing Production Fund, which you all approved, was executed through the operating budget, right, and is a part of the HIF fiscal plan. And so it is not in the CIP packet before you today.
Exactly. So we'll be getting to that later.
Right.
Okay. Very good. And again, you know, congratulations on your evolving model of your financial strategy of doing development where the tenants and buildings can provide a subsidy effectively through their rent for lower income residents in the same buildings. And that reduces the public subsidy that's needed, allowing you to continue to focus your resources on creating more housing and new housing. And I'm hopeful that you'll be able to take advantage of some of the metro station property development opportunities in this county. I think we have created some really exciting possibilities there, and we'd like to see you absolutely stepping into that as well. So hopefully that is something you'll be able to take on. Okay, great. So Linda.
The first project that is listed in the packet is the Demolition Fund. And Ms. Brown gave you some background on this. It was funding that the county helped HOC to make sure that they had the capacity to demolish the Ambassador Apartments and the Emery Grove Village, both of which you've already heard about the exciting new developments that will be there. There is no additional funding needed in the 6 years, but it is an active project now. And so I'd need to recommend to approve keeping it as recommended by the executive.
Right.
Okay. Then we start in sort of the very long-standing revolving funds. The first one is the HOC County Guarantee bond projects.
Linda, not to cut you off, I just want to make sure I'm good with that too. I know I'm off camera, but I'm fine with the recommendations as laid out in the packet. But I just want you to know as you run through them real quick.
Okay.
Yeah, so we could, Mr. Chair, maybe without objection, unless there's an objection, if that's okay.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, these are all highly consensus items here, so we'll just keep moving through them. Great.
The HOC County Guaranteed Bond Project is $50 million of authorization for HOC to access what is, in essence, full faith and credit of the county. As Ms. Brown discussed, this does give them flexibility in certain situations, especially with long-time financing. It does need to be in the CIP per bond council, which is why you see it in the CIP. There's no expenditures in the actual 6 years because it is a revolving fund and there are draws and paybacks. Right now, as of July 1st, when this PDF moved forward, there was still about 45 million of capacity, but as you know, HOC is able to access that as needed during the course of a year. Okay. The next is the HOC Mpdu Property Acquisition Fund. This is another revolving fund, and HOC is authorized to use up to $12.5 million at any one time. This is interim financing for the purchase of MPDUs or for planning, acquisition, and improvements of sites for existing properties. When, again, as you know the model, when permanent financing is brought on, then the funds are returned. This PDF indicated that when the PDF was prepared, there were about $8.7 million of outstanding draws from this resource. Again, there's no expenditures in the 6 years, but it needs to be in the CIP for bond council financing purposes.
So this money gets drawn down, but then repaid quickly.
Yes. The next one is the HOC Opportunity Housing Development Fund. Again, this is another revolving fund and can provide temporary financing for planning, site improvement, building and construction loans, financing, insurance, short-term financing, and insurance for permanent financing. It is also repaid when financing is obtained and put back into the fund. The PDF indicated that there were about $1.88 million of outstanding draws last summer when the PDF was prepared. Again, there are no expenditures specifically in the 6 years, but HOC is allowed to draw from this when it's appropriate to use this source of funding.
So these are all just various different expenses of doing development, and you have various funds that you can draw from as you proceed with projects, and then you access those funds, and then when you put your full financing in place for the projects, you pay back those funds, and you have different buckets that you can do that work through or in. So okay.
Yes.
Got it.
And those are all very long-standing funds, but they do appear in the CIP. So without objection, we would move past those. And then the next is also a long-standing project, and this is supplemental funding for deeply subsidized HOC-owned units. A long title because previously these units generally were under the public housing program, but as you know, through the rental assistance demonstration program, HOC has moved away from public housing and into HOC-owned units, which is terrific. It's been a terrific effort on the part of HOC and really moved them into a very good place. The county provides additional funding so that these units are quality units and they can go in and do renovations as needed. These can be used for any variety of things, for roofs, windows, but also for energy efficient heating and air conditioning, new bathrooms, adjustments to kitchens, those kind of things. We generally have been providing $1.25 million a year in current revenue to allow HOC to do that. And the executive has recommended that in each of the 6 years of the CIP.
So this is cash. This is not a loan.
Correct.
Oops, don't want to share my screen. Great. Okay.
And then the new project is $705,000, which would be spent in FY23 for WSSC sewer and stormline improvements. WSSC is now requiring HOC in coordination with the Purple Line plan to upsize the sewer line and to install a temporary storm line to accommodate the development. As you've heard from Ms. Brown already, this really needs to happen so that the project can continue to move forward and the new building can open, in addition to the recreation facilities. So as you know, this is a really exciting joint project between HOC and county government for the aquatic and recreation center. And this is necessary for both. It is current revenue and council staff recommends approval.
Okay. Sounds good. Yours is not the only project that is dealing with this specific expense, I think, right? Isn't this the same one that has there's another private development up the block that has been struggling with? It's replacing this really, really large line that kind of goes right down Colesville. It's part of that same sub-basin, I guess, of pipes. So interesting to see it showing up here, if I'm understanding correctly, because there's been a multi-million-dollar expense for a project in the same vicinity that project is struggling to meet. And you're here saying we're struggling to meet it too. So we're asking for the county to help, offset that expense, which I think we have to do. It's, the cost of replacing 50-year-old pipes is hard to put on the shoulders of any one particular project. So, okay.
Right. And the portion of this that is for the temporary storm line is because the storm line is needed until the Maryland Transit Authority is able to put in the permanent storm lines as a part of the Purple Line project. But we want to keep this project able to move forward and open.
Okay. Makes sense.
Those are the projects that are before you for HOC. So unless the committee members have questions or discussion, that would complete the review of the CIP for HOC.
All right. Well, I guess the fun stuff will be more at the operating budget. We're going to be taking up our production fund, and certainly want to signal to you, I would like to see the committee grappling with whether we can add funding. And so we'll hope to hear from you about what you might be able to do if we're able to do that. We'll, that's a good 6 weeks from now, probably, that we'll be taking that up or so, but maybe a month, but lots of work ahead of us.
All right.
Okay, without objection, all the HOC capital budget items. Thanks for your great work. Look forward to continuing the conversation.
Great, thank you.
All right.
Thank you, Linda.
Thank you.
All right, have a great day.
All right, have a great day. Now we'll move to our Department of Housing and Community Affairs.
Good morning, everyone. Linda, are you going to go through the package first?
Yes, I'll get us started. Okay, so now you have before you the CIP for the Department of Housing and Community Affairs. With you today are Asim Nagam, Frank Demaray, Chris Anderson, Roger Stanley, Pofen Salem, all from DHCA, and again, Mary Beck and Anita Aridi are here from OMB. The county executive has included several projects in the DHCA CIP. They include the Countywide Facade Easement Program, facility planning for the community development side of DHCA, the Affordable Housing Acquisition and Preservation Fund, and the Affordable Housing Opportunity Fund. All of these projects are somewhat familiar to you. There are also two projects that are scheduled for closeout, and I thought we would start today on the community development side of DHCA. And just give you a brief update on the two projects that are scheduled for closeout, which are Burtonsville and the Colesville, New Hampshire projects. And so with that, either Mr. Nagam or Mr. Anderson or Mr. Stanley, whoever wanted to take that to give the committee brief update.
Sure, Roger's going to make the presentation. Roger.
Yes, my name is Roger Stanley. I'm the chief of the neighborhood revitalization section in the DHCA department.
Welcome to the FED committee. I think this might be your first briefing to the committee. Is that right?
No, actually it's not. I've briefed you all on a couple other projects before.
Okay, welcome back.
Yeah, so I'm going to share my screen and kind of go over a few of the projects that we've been working on in the past. And let's see. Okay. Okay, am I showing up here?
Yes.
You
You are.
Can you just do like full screen? If you go to slideshow and do full screen.
Okay. Is everyone able to see it?
Yes. Well,
Yes.
I mean, I can see it, but it's not, I don't see it full screen yet. So,
Right. I think if you go up on your top thing and go to slideshow
Okay.
at the very top, like where it says home, if you go over, it says slideshow.
I'm sorry, I got used to, not that used to Zoom, but let me see.
It's the fifth button on the top.
On the screen with the presentation, on the
one of your menu options is slideshow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Not the Zoom part, the other part.
In PowerPoint.
Yeah.
Okay.
Where you got it? No. Where it says home, insert, design,
I'm sorry?
Top left.
right up on top.
There you go.
Slide-
Now go over,
There you
go over.
There you
And
go.
slideshow and
Okay.
from beginning.
Okay. I actually hit that from the bottom, but okay.
Doesn't seem to be working actually. So
No, I don't
Yeah,
think that
we
is.
stand corrected.
Okay.
All right, let's do it as is then.
But you need to go back to slide 1.
Okay. Okay, I got it. Am I showing?
It looks like we're on slide 2 on my screen.
Okay.
So that's fine. You can start there.
You can start. Yeah, you could start there.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. This is one of our past projects. We're closing the Burtonsville project out, and this is just to give you sort of an idea of what kind of impact the neighborhood revitalization program has had on the commercial areas of Burtonsville. This is a property at 15498 Old Columbia Pike. A number of, or 21 local residents or local businesses were assisted in this project. And the county put in about $1.3 million. The private property owner put in about $1.5 million.
That's great. Is that the old facade on the left of that screen there?
Yeah, this is the old one here. And this is the doing construction, and then this is the new one.
Nice.
I'm not getting this to advance. I'm not sure what's going on.
Maybe try the cursor, see if that works. Like the arrows, you know.
Okay.
Maybe it's like frozen. You need to close it and reopen it.
Let me try that because it's
clearly plugged in.
okay.
Mr. Stanley, I just sent you an email if you want to forward me the presentation, I'd be happy to run it for you.
Okay.
All right. We could also move to the next item and then come back to this one, I think, right, Linda?
Yeah, we can do that. So let's talk about, we can talk about the facade easement program, and then we'll go back and get the update on the 2 closeouts.
So I think we just need Mr. Stanley to unshare his screen, perhaps.
Okay.
And
Actually,
then,
just to let you know, part of my presentation is about the facade easement program.
Okay.
okay.
Maybe I can pick up on the end.
Rogers, if you, I'm going to try to, I'm not much more proficient at this, but I'm going to try to share my screen because I've been able to get it. So if you could take down your screen, I'll try to share my screen.
Okay.
Or just stop. Yeah, just stop sharing your screen. Okay, let me see if I could. Let me see if I could get this to go. Can everybody see that?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Good. Okay, Rogers, if you want to do the narration, I can.
Sure. Okay. I'll just tell you next. So as you can see, this is a before middle doing construction and after picture. And this actually improved that area quite a bit. There are a number of ethnic restaurants here. The Ethiopian cuisine, there's a kebab restaurant, Cuba de Air is there. And this next slide, Chris.
Okay.
The Chapala restaurant is another restaurant that was improved. As you can see, the before picture and the after picture here. Next slide, Chris. This is the auto repair facility. At one time, this particular facility had an open outdoor lift on the front. So we worked with the property owner to remove the lift from the front of the property. He actually added an addition on the back of the property. And we have the new facade that you see here on the bottom left. The bottom right side is actually the rear of the property, and the top 2 pictures are what the property looked like before the renovations were made. Next, Chris. Also within our program, we work with property owners to improve their signage. So as you can see on the left, this is what the signage looked like prior to us working with the property owner to come up with new signs. Some of them were vinyl signs that were actually tied to rusted poles. And you can see the new sign on the right-hand side that was a drastic improvement from what they had. Next, Chris.
Okay.
Okay, you may be familiar with the Cybers restaurant. They recently went out of business. I believe they have sold it to the owner of the Chapala restaurant. And this is a project where we worked with the previous property owner to improve their facade. The facade does transfer to the new owner, and the new owner is able to actually purchase back the rights for the county to control the facade, or they can leave it the same and submit documents or drawings that may show some modifications for our internal architectural review committee to review and approve. Next slide. The very last project we're working on currently, before we close out this project completely, is a Welcome to Burtonsville sign. These are 2 signs that are going to be placed, one on the eastbound lane of Route 198 in front of the Jafia Islamic Center. And then there's a westbound sign that's going to be located in front of the Burtonsville Crossing Shopping Center. And these signs will be illuminated by solar lighting. We expect these signs to be actually constructed probably within the next 3 weeks, depending on our permit that we're now applying for with the Department of Permitting Services. In this project, we have to have 2 different permits. One is the state highway permit, which we've obtained. The second is the DPS permit. And then we also have an agreement with the Lions Club to actually maintain the signs. So hopefully if you're driving down 198, you're going to see these brand new signs, which is going to be a great improvement to the area. And next, Chris. So that's Burtonsville. In Colesville, we were able to work with one property owner there. That property owner, the property is located at the corner of New Hampshire Avenue and Randolph Road. It's a property that houses the 7-Eleven and a karate studio and actually a dental company. But we work with the property owner. They put in $208,000 in this project, and the county put in $150,000. So it was a significant improvement. It got rid of the old awnings and put some more up-to-date awnings in front of the building. And as you drive by at night, it's really interesting to see the students that are members of the karate program actually performing in the window as you sit at the light. So it's very interesting to see. And that's going to be the last project for the Colesville area. This is the Hillendale Project. As you may recall, the DACA actually got an amendment approved for $300,000 for this Hillendale Project. And this is at on New Hampshire Avenue, just north of the Beltway. It's 10210 through 10222, New Hampshire Avenue. The property owner has about 7 businesses here. It's really an older 1940s building that's being, that the property owner is proposing to do some renovations to.
And this project is where we start with the facade,
yes,
the countywide facade easement program.
Correct.
So this funding is in the first project that's in your packet for approval. Right.
So this is one of the first projects that are part of the countywide facade easement program. As you can see here, this is a proposed rendering of that particular project. As you may know, most construction projects that are actually being implemented since the pandemic are experiencing a lot of increases in material costs, labor costs. There's been delays in supplies, and now there's threats of gas going up. So the project has been scaled down from where it started. Originally, the owner predicted or estimated he would spend about $400,000 to $600,000. The first estimate came in actually about 1.3 million, more than twice the amount originally planned. This particular rendition is around $830,000, and it's still a little bit above where the property owner wants to be. So DACA is going to continue working with the property owner to make improvements and maybe scale down to get closer to his cost of $600,000 or in that range. So we're happy to be working in Hillendale. Hillendale is one of our targeted areas for the facade easement program. We also look at Glenmont, we look at Wheaton, we're looking at some areas in Montgomery Village as our targeted areas. Now we do have the latitude to actually do other projects throughout the county if property owners are not ready to move forward. So we don't concentrate in any one project area as we did in the past in Burtonsville and Colesville. Next, Chris. Our Focus Neighborhood Assistance Program is another program that we implement in addition to the facade easement program. This is a project where we actually reached out to various departments, our very own code enforcement department, DOT, DPS, the regional center directors, MHP and park and planning to find out what projects we could possibly work on within the county in older, either residential or commercial areas. And we came up with a rating system that would sort of rate the projects, and we had a list of criteria that I won't go into detail about that, but I mean, one of them was equity emphasis areas. Was the project recommended by the county council or county executive? Those were a couple of the main criteria on the list. And it came down where Humberto Rodriguez actually recommended that we do some work in Long Branch. So this project will have 2 phases. I know the county council was interested in making some connection with the pedestrian linkages to the Purple Line. So this project will accomplish that. This is in our facility planning, and we're going to be completing work on the east and west side of Flower Avenue down to from Arliss down to Piney Branch Road. And then we will also, that's in phase 1. And then phase 2, we'll be doing the north and south side of Piney Branch Road from Flower Avenue over to Arliss to make connection to the Purple Line, proposed Purple Line streetscape. And we'll be working with parking planning to make sure that we take in consideration their recommendations in their sector plan.
Great. This is on the DOT side. This is using the pedestrian bike funding. We sort of spun out a Purple Line specific walk shed, bike shed. Right. And it's a really high priority, making sure that area is safe for people who walk and people who bike and people who drive, everybody. It's good to hear you're going to be doing some streetscape improvements as part of that. I think the area could really use it. So that's great.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, we work with Tim Couples and Michael Mitchell. We have their draft plan for the bikeways. So we want to make sure that we coordinate the project so that we don't put in something and DOT may have something planned to tear it out. We're also working with DOT to look at a mid-block crossing on Flower Avenue. So this project is really going to be coordinated within the county agencies and even the state agencies as it pertains to the Purple Line station. We also work with the Long Branch Business League, and we'll be holding charrettes to have community input for the project. And our partner in this project will probably be the Montgomery County Partnership, MHP, and they're working as a nonprofit with us already and doing some really good things within the community. Okay, that concludes my presentation.
Okay. Thank you. Good projects.
Thank you. So in terms of the actual CIP projects that we would need recommendations on, the first one is the Countywide Facade Easement Program. There is an increase in the funding in this program, both because of increased costs, but also carrying it out into FY27 and 28. So the total now for the program is just about $4 million. There is an FY23 appropriation of $416,000, and it's funded by current revenue and recordation tax premium. And I think one of the things that you would notice on the slide presentation, of course, is that this, along with the Burtonsville, Colesville, the specific projects we used to do, they're all partnerships and have significant contributions from the property owners. And so while the county is investing significantly, the property owners are investing significantly as well to make these projects happen.
And it's called an easement because the county gains some kind of, why is it called an easement again?
On the facade easement program, the county purchases the right to control the facade for a term. Generally, it's 10 to 15 years. And it places the easement on the property so that we are able to have that control. And we go through the county attorney's office and executing the easement.
Great. Thank you.
So staff recommends approval of that project.
Agreed.
Okay. The second project is the facility planning. This is funding that goes in every year, current revenue. It is funded at what we have traditionally funded it at, $125,000 a year. You did see the focused area network project that Mr. Stanley referenced, which is a part of what is going on in facility planning right now. Last year, you did have a discussion about what goes on in facility planning and how it's determined whether things are eligible for community development block grant funding. And I did just include some of the summary from that back into your packet. But council staff recommends approval.
All right, great.
And then there are two affordable housing CIP projects, and they're both familiar to you. The first is the Affordable Housing Acquisition and Preservation Fund project. And what you will see there is that the executive has continued to show $22 million in each of the 6 years to be added to that fund. It is a combination of new bond funding and loan repayments. And so that would be consistent with what has been approved in the previous CIP, the level funding that the council did approve. I would like to say up front that the practice of the PHED committee for these two, this project, and then starting last year now on the Affordable Housing Opportunity Fund, is to ask any questions or have comments at this session, but we don't actually do an approval recommendation until we come back and look at the totality of the HIF and what's in for affordable housing. So the council staff recommendation is to defer until the operating budget work session for a committee recommendation, but it is an opportunity for the committee members to ask any questions about this project as well as the next project. And in the next project, which is the Affordable Housing Opportunity Fund, you had a brief update on this in December. You will see that the executive has recommended additional funding through recordation tax premium of $6 million in FY23. DHCA can give you another update, but the awardee for the financial partner is in process, and it's expected that this will be available by March, that you would be able to discuss the executed contract. But I could let DHCA also just give you an update on where that is. And again, on this one, if you have questions, comments, but we would recommend deferring until operating budget so that you get a full update.
Okay. Well, why don't we hear from DHCA about the Opportunity Fund?
Thank you, Linda, for the introduction. So, Chairman Dreamer, as we mentioned to you during our December 6th FED committee meeting, we continue to work with our financial partner here, and we are going through negotiations as we speak. And we hope that we can, that the procurement can post a name soon. And we still intend to have this fund operational by the end of March. So hopefully, when we come to you for our operating budget, hearing, we can share more information with you. But given the procurement process, this is where we are. But we continue to make progress over here.
Okay. Well, unless I'm reading it wrong, it sounds like that money has been sitting in the bank unspent, which was my concern about approving the funding. That you guys weren't ready yet, and. So, I see Mary Beck has turned her light on. What do you have for us, Mary Beck?
Yeah, I think that's a little bit of an unfair criticism since appropriations for some of those funds were delayed significantly. So, I think that DHCA took some preliminary planning steps but could not really go forward with any kind of RFP action until they had appropriations. So, I think they actually have been moving pretty quickly given when the appropriation was approved.
Well, I think the choice that we were making last time was just how much to put in, not whether to put in. And my feeling was we could have put in.
But I think the appropriation
less. But.
Well, appropriation for the first year though was delayed until last May, if I remember correctly.
Possibly.
And actually, we always, mention to the committee and to the council when that provision was approved, that our planning was to have this operational around March of this year, which is still our planning. So we still hope to have this operational next month.
Okay.
And we hope that we can have our name posted by the procurement soon.
Well, let me call on someone whose memory might be better than mine. Councilmember Friedson.
Yeah, I appreciate it. I don't want to get into a back and forth here, relitigate the discussions previously, but there were two questions. One, how quickly this could be deployed, and I am interested to see if there's a difference between executing an agreement and being ready to deploy capital, and I would be impressed if you both can execute the agreement and begin deploying capital within 30 days. I mean, that seems to be a fairly aggressive timeline, but I would be very pleased if we come back here in a few weeks and that is the case, but I'd like to see evidence of that before I comment specifically on that. The question that we were specifically asking, because I was the one who proposed it, was whether or not we made the appropriations back to back, or whether we put some money in to allow this process to move forward and allowed some time for the program to get set up before appropriating the second tranche of money, because it has real impacts within the capital budget of what year we reflect those dollars in. So I still think that's a relevant conversation for us to take on. I agree we're not ready to have it here, but I think that specifically, at least to me, is the conversation that we ought to be ready to have. And I think it's specifically contingent on where things are with the actual deployment of capital, not in the execution of an agreement, because the money needs to be available when the capital is called. And the question is, when will that capital be called, and how is the fund structured, and what are the expectations that are being made in terms of the 8 million and 6 million, which are spread out over 2 fiscal years. I noted the compression, even in a ideal scenario, is March to July, which is not a significant period of time for 2 tranches of what are effectively supposed to be annual appropriations, which is why I suggested spreading it out. So I don't want to get too caught up in this, but I just wanted to kind of lay the groundwork for what I hope will be the conversation, as Ms. McMillan, you just noted, as we move forward, which is substantive conversation of where we are with the execution of this agreement, the specific timing and amounts of capital being called, and the timing then within the capital budget of when we reflect the next amount of capital as part of this PDF. And so I hope that will be the conversation that we can have at the appropriate time.
So, thank you very much, Councilor Peterson. That's a fair, question. And we thank the committee and the council for appropriating the money. And it's our expectation that we'll have the fund operational next month. And it's our expectation that, we'll have transactions, coming through this fund soon thereafter. So in terms of the 2 appropriation, 8 million, 6 million over a period of 2 years, helped us in attracting, private capital. So it's, whether we could have waited for another year to have the $6 million from the other fiscal year come in, it helps in terms of attracting, private capital if you have a critical mass. And we think that, we have that mass at this point, and that we have attracted someone to have this fund set up. Now the proof is in the pudding. You are right. We need to have it set up, and we need to get this operational as soon as possible.
I appreciate that. And the only last thing I'll say when we have that conversation, if you could share with us the timing of when the partner is putting up their funds, I think that would be helpful as well, because the expectation is, if we're leveraging capital, that we're calling on our capital, in similar proportion to when the private partner is calling on their capital. We shouldn't be withholding funds from other priorities if they're not withholding funds from other priorities, if that makes sense. So I know all that is still being fleshed out. We're not ready to have that conversation now, but I think that would be helpful as part of the conversation a few weeks down the line.
Sure.
All right. Okay. All right. Well, I hope that we're going to see a big increase in the executive's operating budget for affordable housing. You know, I hope we will be pushing towards $100 million in, you know, funds available in the HIF through the combined sources, and hope we're going to see a big emphasis on the Purple Line corridor and making funding available to partners to purchase properties there and, you know, hold them under nonprofit ownership and ultimately redevelop them under nonprofit ownership. And so we're a couple more weeks away here, and we'll be able to take those issues up when we get to the operating budget. All right.
I think those are really the issues for DHCA today. We'd have the recommendations move forward on the community development side, but we would defer recommendations on the two housing projects until they're considered with the operating budget.
Indeed. Okay.
Okay.
All right. Well, I think that concludes our items then. Right, Linda?
Yes, I think it does.
Thank you very much. Okay. All right, everyone. Appreciate you being here. Thanks for all the work that goes into these meetings, and we'll take it up with the next one. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Of 8 or older.